Okay, hello everyone. This is my friend Kevin.
Hello guys, I'm Kevin. I'm studying physics, math, and engineering. Yeah,
Awesome.
nice to be here.
So you're at the University of Utah with me. We met. I think we first took a complex variables course together.
I think we met in 410 physics, like a classical physics.
I think we took that class the semester after complex.
Oh
variables.
yeah. We met. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So we took complex variables over the summer, and then we took classical mechanics together in the fall. Those were some great classes.
Yeah, one of the best classes. Yeah.
So I guess could you just tell us a little bit about your relationship with physics throughout the years?
The thing is, I always drawn to physics because when even I didn't know it was physics, I knew I was interested in science, and I always wanted to know why of things, like, and then physics usually give the answers. So for example, like very simple question: why sky is blue, right?
Right.
People will assume it's just sky is supposed to be blue, but when you look at the photos in the Mars, like actually it's red, right?
Yeah.
So like there must be reason, and actually it took some long time to actually quantitatively understand it. Actually, the molecules in the nitrogen and oxygen in the air can be simply considered as like a dipole, and then the dipole radiation is actually the function of the input frequency of omega, frequency of fourth power. So that's why the airs in Earth scatter better for the shorter wavelengths, or in people's terms like a blue, right? That drove me to physics, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess so you started off basically by wanting to understand basic questions about the world, right?
Yes.
How has your relationship with physics changed as you've studied over the years?
There are like many questions, and then they seem to have like all the different questions seem to have like a different answers at the beginning, and then when I start to learn physics, and a lot of phenomena actually looks different in the surface, but if you go dig deep enough, actually that stems from same reason, and then actually you think these 10 different phenomena might have like 10 different reasons, but actually it might boil down to like few reasons, like that changed me, that helped me deepen my understanding of what I observe, and actually that's the power of physics. Like this real world is so complicated, but it's almost like poetry. Like even poets like reduce, not reduce, but like they capture the complexity of life in very short amount of words. Like I think it's the same thing with the nature, with the physics. Physics, they have like some fundamental few assumptions that captures all the infinite possible variations.
That's an interesting perspective. I never really thought about it like that. What areas of physics are you drawn to? I know we spoke about this briefly, but what would be your favorite area of physics, and why?
For right now, I think statistical physics is one of the most interesting field in the physics, because of its simplicity. Like there's only two main assumptions: the energy is conserved, and then entropy is increased. That's only two assumptions, and then with that, and you don't at the beginning you don't even require a very higher level math. It only requires some calculus, and then you can already compute the expected radius of neutron star in very high accuracy. Like, and then actually statistical physics sounds fancy, but actually it's more like I felt like a counting for physics. Like like entropies or about counting, and then it's so imaginative. You count some things, and then you can figure out the property of black holes like by counting this huge jump there.
Yeah.
And then there's only few assumptions, and you can do that. Yeah, that I think that's the one of the strengths and then beauty of statistical physics. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess what would be your recommendation for learning physics? How would you go about, for somebody who maybe doesn't have as much experience or they want to learn physics but they're just getting started, how would you recommend, what are your study approaches and how does somebody learn physics from scratch?
Yeah, sure. At the beginning, maybe you have a child or it's good to have exposure, like maybe science magazine and stuff, like get excited. Wow, there are a lot of interesting things, and after that phase is very important. I'm not saying it's not important. It's very important to get interested in. But after that phase, it's important because there are so much things to learn, and we have a limited lifespan. So you need to learn which one is more important. That means usually boils down to a textbooks, usually, and for example, I wanted to learn astrophysics. There are so much variety of things happening, a neutron star, red giant stars, and then but I knew if I diverge now with my limited math and physics skills, and if I focus on that, then I will never come back. Yeah, so I knew those variety phenomena actually boil down to a fundamental physics for branches like classical physics, statistical physics, quantum physics, and electrodynamics. And so it's much easier to learn the core or the root, and then diverge later when you're interested in later. Then diverge first, and then if you diverge too soon, you will get stuck, and then you will more rely on memorization instead of understanding. That's very hard to resist. I know, because people who are interested to learn science are very curious people, so it's very hard, but it's important, but it's a hard temptation. And for more specifically, or let's say, because right now I'm learning quantum physics in class and also by myself, so the most common thing I see people do, or maybe not most helpful, is when you learn lecture or do homework, they think they know. I always say to myself, I'm the easiest person to fool myself.
Yeah.
So it's easy to it took decades for the lecturer to go very smoothly the material they are presenting to. So even if it seems super easy, if you actually go through step by step, it's not there. There's some so many insights. So people think the purpose of lecture is teaching the material in the book. Actually, you can learn material by you just reading the book. And then what's the point of lecture? Then you can learn everything from the book. Actually, I think the point of lecture is actually you learn to read the between the lines. The small, everyone has a different interpretation for each subject, slightly different from one. I have different understanding, Conrad has different understanding. So so it's the most essence of the lecture is actually you learn the insight from the lecturer, not the content. And in order to do that, actually you need to go through the textbook. Actually, I know it sounds super cliche, but it's actually important to, even if you have some gaps, it's not gonna be smooth. You get some stuck somewhere. But it is important to build on your understanding first, and then listen lecture. Then you're not bound to like a very hastily absorbing like a main concept. You already know main concepts, and then now you can see what the lecturer actually brings to the table, his insight, those subtle things. Is actually worth 99% of the lecture, not the like what's written in the book. Yes. So I think it's important to learn the material yourself first, even though I know it's painful, but it's the best way, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you recommend reading the textbook,
Yeah.
the relevant sections of the textbook,
Yeah.
before going to lecture.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what about homeworks? How do you think that? What about exercises?
I'm laughing because I didn't do a lot of homework sometimes. Yes, so I think homework is a good guideline if you're really new to this field, like or maybe like some physics, or is good guideline.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep teaching yourself, and then I think it's a good guideline, but you shouldn't be limited to homework. It's like, actually homework is like there's some like opinion from the instructor that actually there are hundreds of problems in one section. Right? Actually the instructor chose 3 out of 100, and then most times if there's 4 problems, there's in general agreement that actually 4 out of 3 problems, so like most of the 90% of the people agree that's important. Mm-hmm. But there is maybe 1 out of 4 that is the professor's opinion, I'm interested in things, so I'm gonna give it to the students because I think it's very helpful or very useful, but it doesn't always align with your interest. So it's a good guideline, but you shouldn't only rely on the homework. I think if you are interested in, and you think if it's not covered in the lecture or the homework, I think you should go beyond that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what if you're not taking a class? So what if you're just learning a subject without taking a class? Do you read a textbook and then do exercises from that chapter, and how do you choose which exercises you do?
So I think it's depending on how each book's organized. For example, one of my favorite author in the physics textbook is Griffiths. Griffiths wrote. So far, I learned from he wrote about electrodynamics, and he also wrote about undergrad quantum dynamics.
Let me go grab those books because I have those.
Yeah, I really like his layout.
Here we go.
Yeah. So for your reference, this is a quantum undergraduate textbook written by Griffiths, and then this is electrodynamics. Mm-hmm. And then if you open this book, there's 2 types of workbook. The first one is actually he puts between his writings. Mm-hmm. So he's essentially emphasizing that you actually have to do these problems to actually understand the material covered here. Mm-hmm. And I think so these problems I tend not to miss. So okay. I try to do all of them, and if I have a time limit, and then there's actually he sometimes put stars. Mm-hmm. Or something when if there's stars, he's telling me that we will use it again in the next section. So if you miss that one star thing, you're in big trouble. Yeah. And so that's why I like this textbook, because it's very explicit and if you don't have time, actually it's okay to skip the extra problems. yeah, each at the end of the like each chapter, the author has a extra problem, right? Yeah, this one's the wrong section. Yeah. Yeah. So, as you can see, there's like this one is like author explicitly states that this is like extra problems. Also, when you first learn it, when you don't have time, actually it's okay to skip this part. And then maybe if now after you maybe study your 3 chapters and you want to learn more about like chapter 1, and you go back to the like extra problems, and then you whatever looks interesting to you, pick one and then maybe solve one problem and go back to your like chapter 3 and keep learning. And then if you some questions or like more interest arise, and then you go back to extra problems. So this has been how I studied, and it's been very helpful. And you might get stuck even with the example problems or the essential problems. Nowadays there are a lot of like resources online. If you use it wisely to not just copy them, but like to learn actually how they approach it, I think it's very good resource. And yeah, I think we're in online age is good for self-study. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Think about what question I was going to ask you. Okay. Yeah, no, I forgot what I was going to ask. I can cut this out. Oh yeah, here's the question I was going to ask. Is do you have a structured study schedule? So do you, for example, every week plan out, okay, on Monday I'm going to study this topic for 5 hours, Tuesday I'm going to study a different topic for 3 hours? Like how do you structure your study schedule? Or is it more just you study what you want to study?
Yeah. For example, like it's like kind of mixture of 2 things. So, for example, like every Sunday I go to laundromat to laundry, and I have like approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes to do that. And then I usually brings a physics textbook, and then at that time no one in the world can interrupt me. I studied physics for at least like 1 hour and 45 minutes. That's hard thing. I do it every week, and then maybe Friday or whenever I have like time, I try to do more, but it's flexible because every day schedule changes. But even though like maybe I will be able to do only one problem in one day, it's fine because I tried like this. That's like soft limit. And then the hard limit is actually in the weekends. When I set time, I try to hold on to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're currently doing research now, is that right?
Yes, I'm doing research in mechanical department, more specifically vibration and more specifically phononic crystals. Yes.
Could you explain just a little bit about your research?
Actually, like if I believe you are seeing like rainbows that actually shows the water bubbles disperse the light from the light because the light has many spectrums, and then because each different spectrum interact differently with the water, so that's why we see like a rainbow color. It's in the same analogy even in the mechanical system, especially if you have like periodic structures, the the structure responds differently to the each wave input wavelength. So maybe it will like amplify and has a high propagation speed. Some frequencies they don't get through because they don't resonate because the structure doesn't have a resonance frequency of that particular frequency, so they will filter them. My research is to usually what people do in this field is they actually build the structure first and then they try to study the natural frequency of the structure. But my research along with my colleague is that we are trying to solve inverse problem, meaning whenever some customer or whichever entity wants some like a dispersion relation, if they give us that, and then with the formula we invented to actually find the connection or the geometry that correspond to that dispersion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So given a certain frequency of wave that you want to filter, or maybe you don't want the structure to resonate at this frequency, you would build the geometry accordingly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What type of objects are you building?
The funny thing is my research, especially my role, is very abstract. So we actually use concept of Fourier series. Right. So if you have more terms of Fourier series, you approach more to the dispersion the value or function you want. So it's similar. If you have more connections, then you have more accurate closer to the dispersion you want. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you connecting I guess rods, or would it be like?
Actually we haven't made actual physical prototype. Is right now it's on paper, but I believe we can make the connections with springs.
With springs.
Yeah.
So the connect.
Mass and springs.
Okay, so mass and spring configurations.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You're analyzing kind of the frequency properties, the resonance properties of these mass spring structures.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you're using numerical methods to do that?
Actually we derived some analytical expression that has tells the dispersion curve, and also we have the equations we need to solve to get the connections, but actually the equations are quadratic equations with a minimum is 8 variables. So even MATLAB sometimes struggles to solve. So it reduced down to finding nonlinear root finding problems with the simultaneous equations. So at that point we use numerical methods to find the roots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the work is done analytically.
Yes.
Okay. What would you recommend? So you're starting your PhD then? When did you start your PhD?
Yeah, I started January 6th.
Oh, nice. And at the University of Utah?
Oh yes, I am. Yeah.
So that's through the mechanical engineering department?
Oh yes.
Okay, excellent. Who's the professor who's your advisor?
My PI is Dr. Pai Wang, and is specialized in the lab name is Utah Wave and Architected Material. So in our lab we try to design unconventional material that property doesn't exist in the nature by constructing beta material, meaning artificial material, especially periodic structures that can control mechanical vibrations. And then the good thing is the range of the frequency or the size doesn't matter. So if it works on one scale, it can also work in the bigger scale or smaller scale. Yeah, that's what we do in this lab.
Awesome. Just last thing, for people that are not as experienced with research, how would you recommend somebody get involved in research, and how is that different from normal study?
Actually, the like an instructor taught numerical methods, and then at the first day he actually introduced to everybody like what research he does, and then at that time it seemed very interesting to me, but I didn't have any like a numerical analysis background because I just start learning from the instructor, but I thought it was interesting. And then at the end of the actually very last day of the semester, actually I walked to his office and I asked him, is it possible that actually can I participate in this research? And then he gave the relevant paper, and then he told me to like tell me after like 1 week after me reading the paper or your understanding, and then that's how I got involved in the research. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does research differ from studying from a textbook, for example?
First of all, like learning what's on the textbook is I think 10 times easier than the research, because it's so well organized. Like and then you might think even if you're like for example in the foundation class, you have like see the proofs in the textbook, like it seems like each steps is like a very well organized. It's next step, and then actually in the research setting, you don't even know that you will ever get answer. And so in research, I think it's important to you keep studying the area related to your research, because you don't know which tools we use. For example, in my research, I use like a numerical methods to find root finding, and sometimes I needed to do simulation. Without that tool, I couldn't make progress in my research, and sometimes I had to solve eigenvalue problems, and sometimes I had to solve like a differential equation problem. And so the thing is like you don't know what's gonna come up. So it's good to keep stacking your like a toolbox. I'm keep doing that, so because I don't know what challenge is gonna show up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want people to know about physics, or just anything in general?
I think in general, even physics or even doing exercise, I think the like consistency pays off.
Consistency pays off.
Yeah. So do it like maybe like 5 days a week, and then I think like it's almost like epsilon delta, you show that it's not wrong, right? So it's essentially if you do 5 days a week, it's weird that you're better at it, right? If you do every day, like it's eventually you take some time to you eventually get you do it well. So yeah, I think consistency pays off. Yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care. Okay. All right. That was awesome.